So Star Trek Discovery. How do you like it?
I cannot formulate it mildly. The first season was not really to our taste, right? So how does the second season fare? Is it better than the first one now that the last episode has aired about a week ago? Is the show going into the right direction?
Let's find out together.
Okay.
Hi, welcome to Sci-Fi Instinct. We all know that the first season of Discovery didn't start off very well. The new Klingon design was totally weird. The Klingons suddenly looked very different than we were used to from other Star Trek movies or shows. And generally it seemed that Star Trek Discovery just blatantly contradicted Star Trek canon in every possible way. Another was the extremely sophisticated technology for that time period. The series takes place around 10 years prior to the events of the original series, so around the year 2257.
However, the visuals of the series indicate a much more sophisticated technological level than in the original series or even in the movies. Suddenly, the Discovery could travel vast distances instantaneously with the so-called spore drive. Then suddenly holograms and holographic communications seemed to be commonplace, even though there was no trace of holograms in the original series or even in Star Trek movies 1 to 6 with the original crew.
And if that wasn't enough, the format of the show had been written such that we now had a main protagonist, instead of the usual format, where we would see episodes focusing on the different characters of the crew. Then the main protagonist, a woman with the weird name Michael Burnham, also seemed to contradict canon, because it was said that she is the stepsister of no other than Spock himself, yet she was never mentioned anywhere. And on top, she was written to be quite unlikable.
So, understandably, fans were not amused, including us. When we first saw the show, we were thinking, what the hell? But there's more. The tone of the show was dark and brutal. The interior design of the ships suddenly seemed cold, dark and unfriendly, absolutely contrary to Gene Roddenberry's designs, where the Federation of Planets was depicted as a utopia, where all the people and different species were living together in peace and harmony. And this of course also reflected in the interior design of the Federation ships, which always was very friendly and welcoming. The design being a mixture of futurism, friendliness and comfortable living. So this represented also a strong contradiction to the vision of Gene Roddenberry and Star Trek canon.
And then the behavior of the Starfleet officers was unusually unfriendly. There was constant conflict between the crew members, and also there was almost no likable character whatsoever. Everyone seemed to behave like an A-grade a-hole. So the general tone of the show was absolutely contrary to Gene Roddenberry's vision of a future utopia. But we are not finished yet. The show is about war between the Klingons and the Federation, so no discovery of new life forms or new civilizations. That of course also meant that the show was quite brutal, which really doesn't fit the style which we used to know from Star Trek. And then J.J. Abrams' style lens flares all over the place, as if a huge amount of lens flares make everything look cooler. No, it doesn't. It just looks embarrassing. JJ started with this nonsense, and they just copied his style for the show. That's another reason why actually many fans thought that Discovery would take place in another timeline. But the writers of the show confirmed that no, it actually takes place in a normal Star Trek timeline, the so-called Prime timeline.
And then last but not least, the show was filled to an absurd amount with progressive liberal SJW style of gender and race politics. It seems that these days you cannot watch a movie, you cannot play a game or watch a TV show without being brutally bombarded by gender and race politics. Because the viewers, of course, like nothing more than seeing the same stuff the mainstream media feeds us every day, also on our favorite TV shows and movies and games. Yeah. The main protagonist, of course, has to be a woman of color, because not doing so would, of course, mean racism. Then, of course, we need a gay couple, because not doing so would, of course, mean homophobia. And we need many women in positions of power, because not doing so would, of course, as we all know, be misogyny. But wait, There's not a single Muslim on the show. Do I sense Islamophobia here? But okay, enough politically incorrect jokes because we don't want to risk being censored, right? Even though it seems to be a trend going on nowadays. For example, the Star Trek Voyager had a female captain, Captain Janeway, and it didn't feel forced in any way. It felt absolutely natural, and that's why everyone liked her, including me. Or Deep Space Nine, Captain Sisko. A super cool captain, one of the best captains ever. It didn't feel forced and not politically motivated, so people of course like it.
So, these were the problems of their first season. Pwah, a long list. We have to say, we didn't like it at all. We actually stopped watching the show in the middle of season 1 because we couldn't take it anymore.
We also didn't like it.
A few months later, we scrolled through the remaining episodes of season 1. Understandably, we had no hopes whatsoever that season 2 would be any different or better. And then, a few weeks ago, we were bored and thought, why not watch a few episodes of the second season of Star Trek Discovery?
Why not? We have nothing to lose, except
No.
time. Time, yes.
The small detail.
But then something unexpected and weird happened, right? And we actually found ourselves wanting to know what would happen in the next episode.
And we found ourselves even enjoying the show.
Yeah.
I know, weird, right?
So what happened? How did the show manage to captivate us in the second season, whereas the first season was a complete disaster and we didn't want to even continue watching?
Well, it seems that the writers listened to the fans and indeed improved the writing a lot. The show is still not perfect by any means, and there are still issues with it. But we have to admit that season 2 is really a huge improvement compared to season 1. First of all, the focus is not so much on Michael Burnham anymore. But now, the show actually takes the time to give depth to the other characters and to explore their backstories. This way, many more characters get much more depth and personality. Then, the characters seem to behave more friendly and be generally more likable. Our favorite was Captain Pike, who, in our opinion, is a captain worthy of being listed together with Picard, Kirk, Sisko, Janeway, and Archer.
An excellent addition to the Star Trek franchise indeed. Then Saru also got an interesting backstory. Stamets and Tilly also got a lot more screen time and character development. And hell, sometimes we even started to like Burnham. A bit. It seems that the writers really did try to learn from the mistakes of season 1. And then the new Spock was actually also not so bad, despite the beard. The beard was weird. Beard. Certainly a weird decision to give Spock a beard, but then the advantage of that decision will be apparent in the very last episode of season 2. And then the interior design of the ship suddenly seemed a bit brighter, friendlier, and more welcoming. Still, of course, very far away from the next generation Enterprise D levels of friendliness, but at least a step into the right direction. And therefore at least a bit nearer to the visual style of Star Trek that we are used to.
And the story arc is quite intriguing compared to the simplistic and senseless Klingon War as it was depicted in the first season. The tone of the second season is now much more in the style of exploration and making new discoveries. And in true Star Trek fashion, weird stuff keeps happening that always requires a lot of technobabble to find a solution. Much more Star Trek-like than the first season. A really welcome change. Besides that, the gender and racial politics seem to be much more toned down and much more in the background compared to the first season. We still noticed a suspiciously strong emphasis on the power of women. However, we also had characters like Christopher Pike and Spock, who managed to balance this to a certain extent. Still not perfect though, but at least a change into the right direction.
And then it seems that the writers really wanted to reconcile the contradictions between Star Trek Discovery's timeline and canon. Does the story explanation make perfect sense? No. But at least they tried to come up with some storyline that tried to explain all those apparent contradictions and tried to reconcile them. And that deserves some praise. So yeah, the show is definitely going into the right direction. So we hope that season 3 will be to season 2 what season 2 was to season 1. Because then we really could see the series developing into a very good Star Trek series. Because season 2 surprisingly showed us that there still is a lot of potential in this show, even though there are still many issues to be solved.
So what do you think? Do you agree with us that the second season is better than the first one?
Do you agree with us that Star Trek Discovery Season 2 has actually kind of become watchable?
And if you are new to this channel, my name is Ji Xuan.
What? What did we say? Easy version.
My name is Ji Xuan.
Very good. Very good.
Thanks.
Because this Chinese stuff is too complicated. And no one understands it. And my name is Sebastian.
In Germany here, it's Sebastian.
Or Sebastian, if you want.
Sebastian. And if you're into sci-fi-related topics, just like us, no matter if movies, games, or new technologies,
or if you like Tesla, for example, we'll sometimes do Tesla videos. We try vlog kind of stuff sometimes now. We would be glad if you subscribe.
hopefully see you in the next video.
And also leave us a like, and yes, hopefully see you
in the next video. Ciao!